the single just now.
Oh no! Son of a bitch.
You get your two?
Yeah.
Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Thotgor here, of course, and today we are going to take a look at some ranked battles, and I am in the Amagi, yes. Well, I've been playing the Kutov and really loving the Kutov. I mean, I'm doing amazing amounts of damage and whatnot, but at the end of the day, I just don't have the armor and hit points to actually really affect change when it really comes down to it. And then I tried the Chapiev, and the Chapiev was really awesome as well. However, it, again, just really, really squishy. So I just got fed up because I was getting, stuck at rank 14 and going back to rank 15. Then I decided, what the hell, I'm taking out the Amagi. I did well in the Fuzo to get to rank 15. I think that was just like a matter of a few victories, and there you go. So I'm going to play in the Amagi. At least, by the end of today, I managed to get to rank 12. I'll keep playing. I'll keep playing. The weekend's still young. But anyway, been very surprised, or not surprised, but satisfied, I guess, with the Amagi. I mean, the Amagi is a great battleship at tier 8. She has some great guns on her, 5 of them. She's, pretty damn accurate. You can get some great speeds going on with the Amagi. I do also have the Sierra Mike flag flying on this, because, as many flags as I possibly can for a ranked battle. You can get the fighter plane as well, and I mean, I use the fighter over the spotter, because the spotter one, I don't like the view on the spotter plane, but 19.1 kilometers I think is the range of the Amagi. And in a ranked battle, that is definitely workable. I can definitely work with that range, because, I'm not the type of battleship player that's going to be staying in the back the entire time. I really do want to get in there close and really take down some enemies very quickly, and that's why I guess sort of I wasn't wasn't having as good of luck with the cruisers when I was playing in those, but whatever. You can see that my allies have decided that, well, actually, they basically did say that they're going to go to A, and I was going to head to the south and use the island down there as cover and try to attack, shoot into A at any enemies that do attempt to get in there. But most of my allies do seem to be heading towards B. Even though, they said A was where we're going to go, it does look like they're going towards B, so I'm not going to stick down there in the south all alone. I'm going to turn back up to the north and regroup with some of these allies here. I mean, in the meantime as well, there's no reason why I can't get what shots I can off at the enemy battleships as well in the distance. You can see again, the range of the Amagi is not really that big of a deal, and she's definitely accurate enough to do pretty decent damage at these ranges. Now we do have, or rather we had the advantage of, having an allied destroyer. Well, sorry, we do still have the allied destroyer in the cap there, and we even taken out one of the enemy destroyers, which is fantastic. We have a Bismarck. Maybe it's Tirpitz there off in the distance. The German battleships in ranked battle, the Bismarck is definitely a really awesome ship to take into ranked battles. There's no real question about that. But a Tirpitz, because the Tirpitz is fairly inferior rather, than a Bismarck. It just is. I mean, the Tirpitz at range, the guns aren't very great, and as long as you stay out of 6-kilometer range of the Tirpitz when you're in a battleship, you don't really have too much to worry about. Because the torpedoes will come in and kill you. The guns, the guns will get a whole lot more accurate the closer in you get. You really do have to watch that out, and especially in Amagi. The Amagi doesn't have that great of armor if you look at some of the other tier 8 battleships. If you're going broadside onto the Amagi, it doesn't work out very well usually. But still, getting shots out downrange, doing some pretty decent damage. You can see that my team as well is just about to cap B. There we go. B is now capped. So at least we have the one cap, right? And at least as well, even though we said we were going to go A originally and everyone did kind of go B instead, it was good that we did end up doing this, and you can see the majority of my team has managed to regroup, and we're all sort of up here. We've only lost one destroyer. We see an Amagi here Mogami off in the distance, yes, and the Mogami is stopped. I caught a quick glimpse there and saw that no smoke was coming out of the stack, so we're just going to fire off some shells there at the Mogami and hope that we do a bunch of damage. There we go, there's a Citadel hit on the Mogami. Fantastic. We see another enemy Amagi sailing broadside onto me, and it doesn't look like the player notices that I'm broadside to him as well, so I do launch off some shots, and this is really what you do want to watch out for when you are playing your Amagis. You know, broadside on, she's not going to do very well in taking some of those shots. You can get lucky and you can angle, and definitely that's, you know, definite possibility here in the Amagi. But if you're just broadside on to like a North Carolina, Bismarck, Tirpitz, they can do a whole lot of damage to you. Especially the North Carolina at distance can do that damage as well, and obviously you know, enemy Amagis as well. So we do see an enemy battleship there off in the distance. It was a Tirpitz, and I got an elusive Citadel on the Tirpitz. It proves, yes, the Tirpitz does have Citadels, they just doesn't happen very often. So managed to get a nice Citadel hit on the enemy Tirpitz there. We see the enemy Amagi as well. Looks like the player's coming to a stop, maybe going into a reverse, or not quite sure what's going on, but I basically fire in on the enemy, do some damage to the Amagi, but again, no, or rather, do get some hits on the enemy Amagi, but no damage whatsoever. Have my friendly Bismarck here in front of me. Really didn't want the friendly Bismarck to go down, and you know, obviously I don't want to run into him at all, so I'm just trying to get out of his way as much as possible. I'm going to hold off firing my guns, because again, I'm not going to try and fire my guns and kill my friendly Bismarck. That would suck. So put some shots downrange to the enemy Amagi once again. We do see some enemy ships are coming in fairly close, so we do want to pay attention to these guys. There's some decent damage to the enemy Amagi, and as well I disabled one of the main turrets, so that's not too bad at all. Allied New Orleans here in front of me. I always question when I see a New Orleans here in a ranked battle. It's not really that great of a cruiser. We see the Prince Eugen pop up as well, but we do have the enemy Tirpitz off in the distance, so I'm going to get my shots off of the enemy Tirpitz. The land masses there, little islands and whatnot, they didn't allow me to take the shots off at the Prince Eugen, especially considering, you know, I wasn't reloaded in time. So shots go into the enemy Bismarck, do a bunch of damage. That is fantastic. My allies will finish that player off, and maybe I can get some shots off here at the enemy Prince Eugen. Now I did question, because I have been seeing quite a few Hippers and Prince Eugens in these ranked battles, and they do seem to be doing fairly well, but I don't know. I don't think it's necessarily the best cruiser. I really do think right now the Russians have it with the Chapiev and the Kutsov as being the cruisers of choice anyway to burn down things. So there we go. We managed to kill the enemy Prince Eugen. We get the high caliber in that as well. So now we're over 101,000 damage. So not too bad. Taking a look around, we do see that we have 2 of our allied ships are sunk. A few of our allies as well are on pretty low health. So we're going to try, and well, obviously the enemies have 4 ships here as well. So we're going to try and play fairly safe now. I did, by killing that Prince Eugen, did pretty much save my friendly Fubuki there. So that's not too bad. Fubuki thanks me. No problem at all, right? Obviously that's what I'm here to do. Hopefully, you know, take out the enemy cruisers as best I can. And it turns out we have a subscriber in the battle as well, so thank you very much for the mention there. That's always great. We do see an enemy destroyer pop up to the rear of me, right? I didn't really want to turn back and deal with that player, and I do see seem to have some shots here at this enemy battleship, but I am going to have to do something about the enemy destroyer, right? Luckily, I do have some support. We can see an allied Tirpitz there as well, firing in on the enemy destroyer, so this is good. Now, the first few battles as well that I was playing in the Amagi in ranked battles, I didn't have advanced firing training on. Instead, I had survivability expert as the 4th commander skill. Now, I enjoyed it, the extra bit of hit points, yeah, it was fine, but I forget what battle I played, but it became blatantly obvious that I needed advanced firing training because I needed to have my secondary batteries firing out as far as possible. And without advanced firing training, your guns will fire at 5.5 kilometers, I believe, and that's with a flag and whatnot. But with advanced firing training, I think I'm up to 6.6. And I know that that's still not fantastic, especially compared to the Bismarck, but it is better than 5.5, and that extra kilometer or so can really make a difference. So I think it is very, very much worth it. So, bit of maneuvering here I got to do because I'm not willing to go head on with these enemy battleships. They will destroy me, so I got to get through this little channel here, and we do have an enemy destroyer as well that has popped up, so gonna make it a little difficult here for me, and I really don't want to eat any torpedoes. So we see the enemy turrets, and I fire my guns like an idiot. They go right into the mountain. I saw the mountain indicator there. Oh, and I definitely did curse myself on that one. So we have this enemy destroyer. I'm not going to worry about the enemy battleship to my rear. I got to do something about this enemy destroyer. Again, I do have the benefit of some allied support here, which is great. I don't want to make the same mistake twice, so I wait till I have a clean shot on the enemy destroyer, fire in, do a bit of damage, and target the enemy destroyer as well with my secondary battery. If in case the enemy destroyer comes in range, at least the secondary battery there will be able to take a few shots off at that player. Player pops back into smoke. I don't see him. Not a whole lot I can do. All I can do is maneuver and hope I don't eat any torpedoes. The Amagi has a pretty good torpedo bulge on her and torpedo armor, especially when taking torpedoes from enemy aircraft, enemy planes, from enemy aircraft carriers. It really does seem to take those pretty well. I mean, I'm not going around saying that, yeah, you can just eat a whole spread of those. No, 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 no. I mean, if you eat maybe one or two, it's not such a big deal. And if you have a bunch of flags on that prevent flooding or reduce the chance of flooding and all that stuff, and the duration of flooding, that damage can be mitigated pretty easily. So we see the enemy turrets coming in close. You can see my secondary battery is engaging the turrets. Managed to set the turrets on fire as well, which is great. And we're going to have to go broadside here to the enemy turrets because of the island that I have on my starboard side. So I am going to have to eat a bit of shots here from the turrets, and this is where the turrets does become a really deadly ship when you're close in like that. Even though her secondary battery isn't firing at me, it's the main battery that can do a whole bunch of damage, and if I'm not careful, the turrets might be able to close distance and fire torpedoes off at me. So you can see, I mean, we are getting, I think we're just below the 6-kilometer range here, and I'm sailing away as fast as I can. I don't want to stick around here. I'm not going to turn into the player. I'm going to continue to fire at the player and reset the cap, right? Reset this B cap zone. I'm not going to try and stay in the cap and defend it that way. Rather, I'm just going to consistently fire at the enemy turrets and hope that I'm able to, continuously reset the cap and, more importantly, take down the player. So about 12,000 damage done in that salvo there, which isn't too bad at all. I do take a few shots here as well, but you can see a bit of angling, and sometimes you can get fairly lucky here, right? Sometimes RNG does seem to be on your side. Now, if we look at the enemy turret's guns, we do notice that this player is no longer focused on me, instead focused on one of my allies. So this provides me the opportunity to show the broadside, to get as many guns firing off as I possibly can, but more importantly, I am trying to reposition myself and take advantage of this island that's coming up. Unfortunately for me, the enemy turrets does look at me, and that was a massive hit, yes. So that's what I mean, right? Broadside on in the Amagi, you have to be very, very careful. The enemy turrets, definitely is capable of doing a whole bunch of damage, as we just saw. Luckily, I didn't take too much damage this battle, so I'm able to eat those shots and still continue on. So we have a few more shots going into this enemy turrets. Enemy turrets has one more salvo coming in at me. There we go. We finish off the enemy turrets. That salvo comes in. It doesn't do too much damage. I got fairly lucky there. And now we need to turn. There's only one enemy ship remaining, and then we can call this victory. 181,000 damage done so far. Not too shabby. This wasn't my most damage ever done in a battle. I think my most is 203,000. I don't beat that in this one, although I definitely do try. We see the enemy Amagi there off in the distance, and I'm thinking to myself, perfect situation for me to do a bunch of damage, potentially beat the 203,000 damage mark that I've previously set. Shots go in. Yeah, they do good damage, 194,000 damage there, right? But not enough, right? It didn't actually kill the enemy there. And my allies, my allies in this game were all over it too. They did some good damage there as well. So victory is ours. Fantastic, I thought to myself. Playing ranked can be very, very frustrating, and you can see that this was a very early victory for me today in terms of the old rank grind. So 360,000 credits earned, 3,700 experience, 194,000 damage or something like that is what it ended up being, so that's not too bad. Over 200 or over 2,000 base experience, so also not too bad. We can see how some of the damage divvied out here. 72,000 damage done to that enemy Tirpitz. That's what he gets for not paying attention to me. 196,000 credits earned when all is said and done, which is good because obviously, you know, running premium everything on the old Amagi here. So moving into the next battle here, I believe this is the battle that I played for rank 12. It went fairly well. So you can see, you know, we're on Mountain Range. Mountain Range is always, I always find it a weird map anyway. I do really enjoy, though, in this ranked battle season, that they are offering these 2 cap zones as opposed to 3. I think this is a really, really good improvement to ranked battles overall as a whole. At its core, ranked battles, I think, is still broke because it's really not skill-based. It's, you know, how much do you want to grind through this stuff is what it comes down to. But I do enjoy it enough that I will play it and try to work my way up the ranks, if only for the rewards that it offers. I mean, when I got to rank 13, I got a crap ton of flags. When I got to rank 12, I got a crap ton of flags, and that was well worth the, I don't know, 3-4 hours that I played earlier this morning. I don't know how many flags it was, maybe 50 of a bunch of flags. It was great anyway. So you can see the team decides that we are going to go over here to the B side, and in the meantime, because we have 3 destroyers this time, we are going to send a destroyer over there to the other cap, scout it out and cap it if possible, which is a really good plan, mind you. I mean, I have been getting into a lot of battles where it's mostly battleships. This battle here was atypical for what I was seeing today, in that we have 3 destroyers and, you know, 3 battleships and a cruiser. I didn't see that very much. But still, I had my concerns. Obviously, I didn't want to get torped by the enemy destroyers, but I'm going to just stick around with my allies here and hopefully deal out some decent damage and get the victory. We see an enemy Admiral Hipper there off in the distance, so we're going to cascade some shots in. More than able to penetrate the Admiral Hipper from the front with these guns on the Amagi, so it's just a matter of my aim and how good it is. We land a few shots and do a bit of damage, so that's not too bad at all. Off to a decent start. We see the enemy is capping B, so we know that there's a destroyer there at B, but in the meantime, again, we do have our destroyers over there at A starting to cap that as well. We see some shots coming in from the enemy battleships, and it is something that you want to be aware of, especially at the beginning of the battle. The Amagi doesn't have great concealment, and I don't have Concealment Expert on my captain. I don't have the concealment module for the battleship. Instead, I went with the target acquisition, increased target acquisition of torpedoes and enemy ships and whatnot. So, you know, I'm going to be spotted pretty early on, so it is important to maneuver around, and that's why I run the Sierra Mike flag, because I do generally run at full speed when I'm out in these open waters like this, and I'm maneuvering wildly as while I'm doing this, because I'm trying to make sure that I'm, you know, never presenting a broadside to something too long, because it's really hard against multiple ships like this to not present broadside to any of them. That basically means that you have to sail straight at them, and that is not something I want to do at this point in time. Too early in the battle. Doesn't mean I'm going to stay out there at 19.1 kilometers, the maximum firing range, but I'm definitely not going to get into like 10 kilometers and below. I'm going to try and stay maybe 14 to 17 kilometers away, generally at this stage and point in time in the battle. I think is fairly decent. We can see an enemy Tirpitz here off in the distance, so we're going to put a full salvo into this guy, hopefully do a bunch of damage, just wait for those to hit. And yeah, that was pretty decent damage at 12,000 damage or something there, so that's not too bad at all, right? It is, you know, difficult to get the old Citadel here on the Tirpitz. Did it last battle? Doesn't happen very often. We can see some torpedoes coming in for the enemy Tirpitz, and hopefully at least one of those will hit the enemy Tirpitz. And you can really see as well what happens if, you know, you're in a battleship and you do just charge right in there like this. I mean, I really do not like how a lot of battleship drivers do seem to stay way in the back. For the entire game, I just don't think that that has any place in this game. However, That being said, you know, you don't have to just charge right in and close to the closest possible distance. It really, like I said, you know, 14 to 17 kilometers seems to be a pretty good range, and anyway am you know, going to move in as close as I possibly can if the opportunity presents itself. Now, unfortunately, we did just lose an Allied Bismarck. That kind of sucked. A number of torpedoes came in there from an enemy destroyer somewhere. I don't think those were Tirpitz torpedoes because we saw two spreads of them, so not 100% sure. But anyway, that enemy Tirpitz is about to go down, so he paid a price here as well for his push in here on that point. We see an enemy Bismarck off in the distance. We're going to try and line up some shots on this player because that's where my guns are pointed. But in the meantime, you know, I do want to put pressure on this enemy base that they have capped here in front of me. We're going to try and get ourselves in here. I know that there's enemy destroyers in here as well, but we got to do something, right? Because we can see the team is kind of falling apart, and I really didn't want to lose this battle. So we have four Allied ships remaining, including myself, and the enemy has 4 as well, 2 destroyers on each side. So the enemy Tirpitz or Bismarck there just ate a whole bunch of torpedoes from my Allied destroyer, so that is fantastic. That player is on pretty low health. I've got this enemy North Carolina that has just popped up, giving me a broadside, and North Carolina is fairly similar in the to the Amagi in that you should not be presenting broadsides in a North Carolina because shots can come in and quickly get citadels and do a bunch of damage. So I do a bit of damage there to the enemy North Carolina, really not a whole lot, right? And over penetration is basically what I got, but it can happen. It can happen with the North Carolina where you just wreck one in one salvo. It's pretty amazing when it does happen. We saw the Lo Yang there pop up as well. I don't really have any shots on the Lo Yang at this point in time. He's in the smoke. We see shots coming in from the enemy North Carolina, so I do need to turn in to avoid those shots because the North Carolina can do a whole crap ton of damage to me here if I'm not angled against the player. We see the enemy destroyer pop up as well, so gonna need to keep this guy in mind. So we have a lot going on here, but we do need to pick our target carefully, right? I'm not going to waste my whole salvo. At least I'm going to try not to waste my whole salvo. Couldn't get any shots on the Lo Yang. Lo Yang was going in behind the mountain. I've got this other destroyer here in front of me. You can see my secondary batteries engaging, so I'm going to put some shots into this enemy Benson here as well. See if I can't get a few hits, do a bit of damage. And I do recommend battleships do this as well. You see an enemy destroyer, you know, and he's close into you. Don't ignore him and hope your team is going to deal with it. You have to definitely start firing at that thing. Target it with your secondary battery. Make sure that everything you can possibly do is concentrated on that enemy destroyer and getting that player killed. So the enemy destroyer pops out of sight, so I'm going to have to maneuver here, and generally speaking what I do is I try to bow into the enemy destroyer. This is going to mean that I'm going to sail right next to the enemy destroyer, but it's what I'm going to have to do here to give myself the best possible chance of avoiding any incoming torpedoes. Unfortunately for me, though, it does mean I'm presenting broadside to this enemy North Carolina, so I'm going to try again to maneuver around a little to see what I can do about, you know, giving a good angle or giving, you know, a good angle to mitigate shots against the North Carolina while still being able to reasonably dodge enemy torpedoes. We saw the enemy Benson pop up very quickly there in front of me, and he is really close to me here as well. So I've got my guns firing out at the enemy North Carolina. In the meantime, I'm really hoping that my secondary battery is going to deal with that enemy Benson. We're down to 2 Allied ships now versus the 4 enemy ships remaining. We can see the enemy Benson there, so I'm going to turn. I'm done firing at the enemy North Carolina. We're going to try and deal with the enemy Benson now. Turn and just get some guns, whatever guns I possibly can, to fire at the player. You can see my secondary battery engaged him as well. My allies managed to finish off the enemy Benson. Fantastic. Don't have to worry about any torpedoes. Apparently the Benson didn't fire any at me, so we can focus back onto this enemy North Carolina. This whole time I have been in the enemy cap as well, and I'm, you know, kind of capping it. I do have some allies here with me as well who are also kind of capping it, but more importantly what we're doing is we're preventing the enemy from gaining any points from this. So this is good. We're gaining a nice healthy lead in points. We see the enemy Lo Yang pop up once again, so I just need to get my guns on target, and then we're going to fire off a full salvo here at the enemy Lo Yang. Hopefully do a bunch of damage. Not too bad. 6,300 damage maybe. So that's decent, right? If the enemy whatchamacallit, destroyers had citadels. That would be amazing. I know they did at one point in time in Alpha, and I know it made that the enemy destroyers were just crazy and hard to play, but it would be gratifying at times anyway. So the enemy Lo Yang continues to sail in a straight line, which I found very surprising. Target him with my secondary battery, and we're going to start firing our main battery at him here as well. Keeping an eye on the enemy North Carolina, right? That enemy North Carolina is on fairly low health. We see all of the Lo Yang's torpedoes being fired off at my allied battleship there and, on the starboard side of the ship, we don't have to worry about any ourselves, so that's pretty decent. It does look like our ally is going to be able to avoid those as well, so fantastic. Enemy Lo Yang is gone. Focus back over to the enemy North Carolina, who's on fairly low health. Line up our shots to make sure that, they actually go in and hit the player and don't just run into the mountain. We do decent damage. We fire off our stern guns. Those come in, take out the enemy North Carolina, and get myself in high caliber. Not too bad. Now we only have one enemy ship remaining. Fantastic. And you can see that it is an enemy battleship who has chosen to stay at distance the entire battle, and this is what it gets you. You are totally out of position, right? I bet that guy was firing his guns off at us as much as he possibly could, trying to do as much damage as he possibly can, but at that distance it's not going to be so significant that we are really going to need to pay attention to him, right? As long as you angle against that ship, you should be able to mitigate most of the damage coming into you. So I managed to get a few shots off, and this is again where the Amagi does excel, is at range. The Amagi has some pretty damn accurate guns, especially compared to some of the other battleships, so really does work out well, as long as you can accurately fire at the enemy anyway. So we're going to turn to try and get all of our guns firing on this enemy Bismarck, see what we can't do about getting a bit more damage. We just breached the 100,000 mark for damage, and maybe even get ourselves another kill. Shots go in, do a bunch of damage there to the enemy turrets. That is fantastic. Just need to reload on the bow guns, and we might actually be able to finish off the enemy turrets. We see my allied battleship put some shots into the enemy turrets. Those seem to, enemy Bismarck, I guess. Those seem to have missed. My shots go in, maybe get the kill, who knows. Shots go in, damn it. Yeah, you do have to aim, right? Do have to aim. If you hit the superstructure, you can expect over penetrations and very little damage. But my stern guns come in, finish off the enemy Bismarck there, and victory is ours. And that was the victory, like I said, for rank 12. So fantastic. There we go. We can see some more flags have been received. Excellent. Love getting these rewards and these flags. So 120,000 damage dealt, 3,200 experience, 305,000 credits earned, over 2,000 base experience once again, which isn't too bad. We can see how the damage breaks down here. We spread out the damage a bit. I'm surprised actually I didn't get a Confederate. I guess I didn't do enough damage to enough enemy ships, but whatever. 124,000 credits is what I managed to walk away with. 3,200 experience and some commander experience as well, because I have 4 points here now for the Amagi captain, and once I get that 5th one, I'll go with the manual fire control on the secondary battery. Anyway, that is today's video. I do hope you guys enjoyed it. I also hope you guys aren't getting too frustrated with your own ranked battle experiences. I just changed up the ships that I used. Maybe that'll help you as well. I'm not sure. Help me. But remember to leave any comments you have in the video comment section below. I love reading those and responding back to them. Hit the old like button if you did like today's video. Hit subscribe if you were not a subscriber. And as always, I do hope you enjoy the rest of your day.